7 o'clock. Let's call the meeting to order. We'll start with roll call.
Okay. Chair Brooks Esser,
Present.
Vice Chair Juan Carlos Prado,
Present.
Councilmember Beatriz Cerrillo,
Present.
Councilmember Joanny Gillespie, Councilmember Linda Lopez,
Present.
Councilmember Everardo Rodriguez,
I'm here. Thanks.
Councilmember Jennifer Ruiz, Councilmember Blair Whitney.
Present.
Okay, thank you.
Next up on the agenda is public comment. Anyone may speak up to 2 minutes on any topic that's not on the agenda this evening. Please note that the council cannot discuss or take action on any items not on the agenda. Do we have any public comment this evening?
No, if anyone would like to make a public comment, we will use the raise hand feature in order to organize any public comments. If you do have a public comment at the moment, please raise your hand. Victor, are there any public comments on your end?
Thank you, Jennifer. I don't see any at the moment.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you both
Back to you,
very
Chair.
much. Thank you very much, Jennifer. Next item on the agenda, swearing in of new council members, our youth council members. I don't, pardon me, who actually does the swearing in ceremony? I'm not sure who leads that.
I can take over from here.
That was what I thought, Tim. Thank you very much.
Okay, great. Why don't we do it one at a time, if that's okay with you? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to read the California Oath of Office in snippets. And after I say each thing, just repeat back what I say, and that will constitute the oath. So let me make sure I'm pronouncing the names correctly. It's Gabriela Ake. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And Sitlale Kurinsita.
Perfect. Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, we'll go with Gabriela first. So if you would please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Gabriela Ake,
I, Gabriela Ake,
do solemnly swear
solemnly swear
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the
State of California,
State of California
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of California,
of the State of California,
of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation,
without, can you repeat that again? It kind of
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully
and that I will and faithfully
discharge the duties
discharge the duties
upon which I am about to enter.
upon which I am about to enter.
Very good. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
I apologize how disjointed that is. I apologize at how disjointed that is, but it's the way it's written in the state constitution. Okay, Sitlale, are you ready? I, Sitlale Kurinsita,
I, Sitlale Kurinsita,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution.
the Constitution of the United States
The Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and to the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully
and that I will well and faithfully
discharge the duties
discharge the duties
upon which I am about to enter.
in which upon I'm about to enter.
Very good. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
I would just like to say on behalf of the council how pleased we are to have two such outstanding young women join us. As you know, the youth constitute a large percentage of the population of North Fair Oaks. So your input is going to be extremely important to us. So all I can say is challenge us, share your ideas. Don't hesitate to ask questions in meetings. We really do value your contribution. And now if you'd like to each say a few words, please. We'll start with Gabriella.
Well, I'm just very thankful to be here, and I'm so excited to be a part of this and just learn through my peers and the community and see how much I can help out and be an influence. And I'm just very thankful to be here.
Thank you very much. And Zalali?
Yeah, so thank you everyone for being, open to have us here. We're both very grateful. I'm so excited to be working with Gabby because she's childhood friend.
Wow.
It's just great to see her here. We're together, and I'm here to bring optimism and a great perspective to these spaces. And I'm overly excited to be working with all. So thank you so much.
That's terrific. Thank you both very much. Let's see. Next on the agenda, we have report outs. Supervisor's report. Do we have Maggie on the line this evening?
Good evening, everyone. This is Maggie Cornejo with Supervisor Slocum's office. I would like to start by congratulating the two new youth members, Citlali and Gabriela. You haven't met me, but I work for Supervisor Slocum, who represents this district, District 4, North Fair Oaks, East Palo Alto, Bellhaven, and Redwood City. And on behalf of his office, we want to welcome you, and we look forward to hearing your perspectives and learning from you. And I'm sure you're both going to do a great job. And if you want to reach out to me, you can definitely reach out. I'll put my email on the chat, and we can connect. Today for Supervisor Slocum's report, I have a short and brief report. I just want to tell the council members about our last Facebook Live, which was on back to school for the fall. We had 4 different panelists on the panel. It was Superintendent John Baker. We had a school principal, which was Ana Herrera from Taft. We also had Michelle Raymond, who is the community liaison for Redwood City School District. And we had Cecilia Marquez, who is a board member for the Redwood City School District, as well as a parent of her son. And overall, I thought it went really well. We had about 60 plus viewers on our Facebook Live at the moment. Now it's over, I think, like 600 or 700. We shared, the panelists shared great information on the reasons to going back to school, the benefits for the kids, what kind of programs and support they'll be able to extend to the families that kids have probably fallen behind, or things like that. And it was a great space for parents to ask questions. We are going to continue our partnership with Karen from the Sheriff's Office as well as Redwood City together. And we are working on having another one on vaccines focused on youth, and talking a little bit about the stigma about the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. So that'll be coming up. The date is still tentative, but we are looking for either late June or early July. Is there any questions or comments from the council members?
Terrific. Thank you, Maggie. Next up is the county manager's report. Justin?
Good evening, everyone, and can I just join in welcoming Shilali and Gabriela? I think it's fair to say that we're all here because we believe in public service and the power of government to do good in our community. And it is so fantastic that we have youth members on the council who share that belief. A big welcome to our two new members here. By way of introduction, Justin Mates, Deputy County Manager. I'm speaking later on, and so I'll just keep my announcements really quick to a couple of vaccine issues. The one is just announced today is a brand new incentive program by the state and the governor. I don't know if you may have already heard about this, but there are now cash prizes for vaccines. And I believe Jennifer will be sharing this flyer with everyone, but we want to get the word out. There's nothing anyone needs to do other than if you've already gotten vaccinated, you're eligible for some of these. And if you will get vaccinated, there's some extra incentives. So one of them is there will be on June 15th, they're going to announce 10 winners of a $1.5 million prize each. And so as long as you've had at least one dose of your vaccine by June 15th, you are eligible for this drawing of $1.5 million. There'll be 10 winners. Also, every Friday from now until June 15th, there will be $50,000 cash awards for anybody who's vaccinated. Again, all you have to do is get vaccinated and you'll be automatically entered into these drawings. And then finally, for anybody who is newly vaccinated, who is going to get vaccinated between now and June 15th, there will be $50 incentive cards that you will be eligible for the first 2 million. I'm sorry, the first 2 million people who get vaccinated between now and June 15th. There's more information about it. We'll share the flyer, but wanted to tell you all and help. Please, we're going to spread the word, but please help us as well. You know, there's a lot of talk now about incentives and whether or not that can help and be a motivator for some folks to get vaccinated. The state has announced this program. We want to spread the word. The other one that I was going to mention briefly, and we will be sharing some flyers soon with all of you, is we are going to be sponsoring vaccinations at the county fair. If you get vaccinated at the county fair, I think it's all but just a couple of all the weekend days we will be there. You'll get free admission. You'll get a $20 food voucher. And anybody in your family under 11 gets free admission too. Again, just trying to get as many people vaccinated as we can. And if a fun day at the fair is with something that interests families and you get vaccinated at the same time, we're all for it. And with that, I don't have any other announcements from the county manager's office.
I see a hand up from Councilmember Lopez. Linda, you have something?
Justin, what is the name of that incentive program? Does it have a name?
The state's name for it is Vax for the Win, VAX for the Win. And I think Jennifer is going to share the flyer with you. It's not exactly a name that rolls off the tongue, but it's Vax for the Win.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Any other questions for Justin? Okay, moving on to council members' reports. I'll go ahead and kick off. I got a couple of quick items here. As many of you know, on May 4th, the Board of Supervisors approved a revision to the county fireworks ordinance. And this includes strict liability for social hosts and increased and meaningful fines to deter individuals from using unpermitted fireworks. I've actually asked Lieutenant Myers of the Sheriff's Department to present at our July council meeting. And what we'll be looking for there is a reduction in the number of these devices that are set off during the 4th of July. Second I have tonight is that work has begun on the Middlefield Road improvement project. The lot behind the clinic is being prepared for the construction trailers, material storage, as well as staging. The first order of work is going to be the sewer pipe replacement at the north end of the project. That's north of the railroad up to Douglas. And we're going to get an update on project progress on that at our June NFOCC meeting. Those are my report outs for tonight. Vice Chair Prado, do you have anything tonight?
No, not at this time.
Okay, Council Member Cerrillo. Beatrice? Okay, we have Joni is not here tonight. Councilmember Lopez. Linda?
What is the name of the construction company? Do you know? Does anybody
I
know?
do not know.
It is Granite
Justin?
Rock.
Granite
Oh,
Rock is doing
Rock. Okay,
that. Okay.
thank you.
He's here tonight.
Any other report out, Linda?
Oh, just that I continue my work with Climate Ready North Fair Oaks. We're doing continuing work on setting up the program for residential purifiers. So continuing to work with the Stanford team of students and interested people from the community. And please, if anybody on the council or knows someone who'd like to get more involved in climate ready strategies for North Fair Oaks, please feel free to contact me and I can get them on the list to get the start getting the information. And we need all the participation we can get. And then also I continue to do work with what we're calling the Undocu Support Team Working Group. And this was a coalition of community-based organizations that got together last year to work on survival strategies for the immigrant population in North Fair Oaks. And so that work continues. What's come up as a very highlighted issue is around mental illness and looking at some of the lack of accessibility and gaps in mental health services. So that's ongoing work. And I think that is it. Thank you. Oh, and welcome, Gabriela and Islali. And I'm so glad you're with us. I know it took a long time to get to this point, but welcome. And all I ask of you is that you keep your enthusiasm because we need it. Okay? You can do that and do the work. I love it. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. Councilmember Rodriguez, report out tonight?
Yes, thank you. Good evening. I have a couple of things. One is I'm part of a committee from the San Mateo County Multi-Jurisdictional Hazard Mitigation Plan. As I had mentioned before, this is a renewal of the mitigation plan that was drafted back in 2016. And it is time to do an update by FEMA's requirements. So essentially we are looking at the older plan and bringing it up to date. Of course, a lot of new things are coming up. And just last week, there was a round for suggestions from committee members so as to what were the some of the salient issues that people were thinking about. And a lot of people were concerned about fires. And also some people were concerned about earthquakes. So, you know, those continue to be some of the highest concerns. My suggestions were more specific to North Fair Oaks, and they were in regards of trying to identify community shelters or places that could serve as community shelters, and also to try to get an emergency plan implementation for North Fair Oaks. And then briefly, as a way of welcoming Gabriela and Citlali, I would like to bring up a couple of items that are related to youth. One is the Oye program. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with it. Maybe you have participated in the past, but it's coming up in June, and this a couple of weeks away. And so if you are not involved and would like to get involved with that, you can get in touch with me, and I'm going to be volunteering for that event. And so it's the translation for the Oye program is it stands for Educación y Orgullo, essentially pride and education, and is geared to supporting youth. And the other program that I wanted to mention is a small program that we are working on with the Police Activities League from Redwood City here at Taft School. They have their offices there. And what they're doing is they're implementing a podcast with videos. They implemented a training program to train youth in filming. So they're teaching filming and editing and how to conduct interviews. So we are going to try to interview members from the communities of Redwood City and North Fair Oaks. If you guys are interested, also get in touch with me, and we'll find a way to come up with interesting ideas. So welcome on board, and thank you for participating. And that's my report.
Thank you very much, Ever. Councilmember Ruiz, was Jennifer able to join? Are you online, Jennifer?
She is not here at the moment.
Okay, thank you very much, Jennifer. Councilmember Whitney, report out for the month.
I don't have anything substantial. I'm not going to take up any time other than to say welcome to the new members. It's actually a really exciting time, even though it's scary and weird, because we can think big and change is happening and things are possible, from parks to beautification, new library branch transferred under the county. There's a lot of possibilities in the next few years. So I look forward to working with everyone. That's it.
Thank you very much. Next item up is the Supervisorial District Lines Advisory Committee. Justin Mates, the Deputy County Manager, is going to present on that.
Good evening again, everyone. Jennifer, if you could please share the slides.
Yes.
And I know there's a very long agenda today, so I'll try to move through this fairly quickly. Just wanted to alert the council and the community to an opportunity to serve on a new and sort of once every 10-year opportunity advisory commission. And that is the Supervisorial District Lines Advisory Commission. Next slide, please.
Johnny, are you sharing your screen? Oh, let me see. I'm so sorry, Deputy. Just the county manager.
No, that's okay.
There we go.
Great, thanks. So just a little by way of background. As you all know, San Mateo County is divided into 5 supervisorial districts, and they're all roughly the same size, about 147,000 people. And under state and federal law, the board has to ensure that these supervisorial districts remain substantially equal in population. And as you all know from all the efforts about a year ago, there was a new census. And so we have to make sure that the lines are drawn in our supervisorial districts in accordance with where the population is as of the 2020 federal census. And of course, as you know, the 5 board members are each elected exclusively from the electorate in each of those supervisorial districts, and a supervisor or a candidate for supervisor must live in that district. A couple months ago, the Board of Supervisors formed a commission, the Supervisorial District Lines Advisory Commission, which is a commission of citizens to advise the board on the district lines for these supervisor districts. The commission will recommend draft district boundaries to the board, and the board will then accept or adopt a final map of the district lines later on this year. The work of the commission involves holding a number of public hearings to allow the public to comment on potential maps of these supervisorial districts, and then recommending that a final map to the board. Next slide, please. So we are, and the board has opened an application process for residents of the county to apply to serve as one of the commissioners. There will be 11 commissioners. Any resident of San Mateo County is eligible, regardless of voter eligibility. Regardless if you're eligible to vote, you are eligible to serve on this commission. The website there has more information, including the application in order to put your name in to be a commissioner. I should say really briefly, the only residents of the county who are ineligible to apply are current elected officials at all levels: city, school board, and of course the board themselves. And as I said earlier, this is a once-in-a-decade opportunity to help influence the district boundaries that reflects the new population data and demographic changes in our county. All applications are due next week on Friday by 5 p.m. Next slide, please. So the selection process, as designed by the board and as recommended by the board, as adopted by the board, will be that all the League of Women Voters, as an independent, apolitical, non-political organization, will be reviewing all of the applications submitted. The process will prioritize applicants who have a history or have shown interest in good government, civil rights, civic engagement, and folks representing community groups or organizations that are active in the county, including those active in language minority communities. And the goal is really to get a commission with a membership that is geographically diverse and consistent with and reflects the county's emphasis on valuing diversity, equity, and inclusion. Next slide, please. So after the June 4th deadline and after all of the applications are in, the League of Women Voters will recommend candidates for the commission to the Board of Supervisors, who will then take the final action to appoint that commission. And then after that, the commission will be formed and will start to have their public meetings and share information. And there will also be an online tool, and we'll have more opportunity to share information with you, but there will be an online tool where citizens can draw their own maps and see, and it has all the demographic data in there. You can see how different district lines create different groups of demographics within a supervisorial district. And with that, I'm happy to take any questions the council may have.
Thank you, Justin. Do we have any questions from council members?
Yeah, I have a question, if I may.
Please go ahead.
Yeah, just to clarify, so appointed board members as ourselves here in North Fair Oaks, we would be eligible because we won't vote it in, just to clarify that point?
Yes, that's my understanding of it, is only elected officials are ineligible.
Okay, thank you, Justin.
You asked my question, Juan Carlos. Are there any other questions from council members? I see Everardo with his hand up. Councilmember Rodriguez.
Yeah, thank you. Actually, Juan Carlos' question was also one of the questions I had, and particularly interested in the fact that we are not necessarily elected. I mean, we don't run elections, but does that still apply to us?
So my understanding is, and actually, I don't know if Tim knows more of the actual law, but my understanding is that only elected officials are ineligible, and none of the members of this council have been elected to be on this council. You've all been appointed. So by virtue of this service, I don't believe that you'd be excluded from applying to be on the District Lines Advisory Commission.
Great, understood. And I wonder, Justin, if you know, how long is the process once somebody gets selected? Do you know?
So the whole thing has to basically be wrapped up this year by about November is when the board has to adopt. It has to be enough time before the election at the end of this year, whatever that, the end of next year, I guess. But anyway, it has to be wrapped up. I'm sorry.
Oh, excuse me, Justin. No, the next district that comes up is at the end of 2022. It's District 4, I think.
But it's by November of 2021, I believe, under the law is when the board has to adopt the maps. Now, it's a little bit unclear right now because the census data has been delayed from the Census Bureau. So the commission actually can't start its work yet because we can't yet load the latest census data, but we're monitoring that closely. We're told it should be coming out soon. Assuming that it comes out in time, then that November date stays and the commission will be appointed probably by the board in late June or early July. And they will probably have their first meeting in late July, August timeframe. And then there's a requirement that the commission have at least 4 public meetings. And so those you can kind of, start spreading it out in your head in terms of, okay, if it's the first meetings in August or so, you got to have 4 public meetings around the county. And then you have to make a recommendation to the board so that the board can adopt by November. So it's a pretty tight time frame, but the service should not be more than, through the fall.
Through the chair, I have a question. This is Linda. Justin, is there, I missed that part of that screen on the PowerPoint, but is there any criteria that will be in place to make sure that there is a balanced process of putting application to make sure there's a balance of what applications are coming from each district? Is that going to play into it? That there's a certain number of applications from each district, or is it just going to be like a free-for-all?
So there is no, I don't believe it's going to be a free-for-all, but I also don't believe it's going to be a strict number from each district. Okay. The League of Women Voters is going to be prioritizing geographic diversity and geographic representation, as well as diversity and equity and inclusion principles. And so I don't know that there's a strict number, but certainly the commission is meant to represent geographic diversity in the county, as well as other demographic diversity.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Are there any other questions from council members for Justin? Do we have any public comment or questions on this?
If there's anybody that on the Zoom line that would like to present a public comment, now is the time to use the raise hand feature. Victor, are there any comments on your line?
Thanks, Jennifer. I don't see any at the moment.
Okay, back to you, Chair. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Next on the agenda is an informational presentation with regard to the gun licensing ordinance. The presentation is going to be by Lauren Carroll of the County Council's office. Lauren, floor is yours.
Hi, thank you. Hi, I'm Lauren Carroll, and I am a Deputy County Counsel. Don't mind this crazy glare behind me. And I'm here to talk to you about some new proposed gun control legislation that is coming before the board in the next couple of weeks, especially because it applies in the unincorporated areas. We want to make sure to do outreach to our unincorporated communities. I'm going to share my screen here. Is that visible?
Yes.
Yes, it is, Lauren.
Great. Okay, so this ordinance involves the licensing of firearm dealers in the county, and it's actually an update to existing firearm dealer regulations that we already have. The county already requires firearm dealers in the unincorporated areas to have a license. But this ordinance is designed to make that regulation more rigorous with more security standards and more stringent background checks and things like that. And I'll get into the details in a couple minutes. It will only apply in the unincorporated areas because this is a county ordinance. That said, we think it is unlikely to lead to new gun dealers in North Fair Oaks. So as I'll explain later, this ordinance has some location restrictions to prevent gun dealers from being able to open up in sensitive areas. And we believe that those restrictions make it very unlikely that someone would be able to, under the current zoning regulations, open up any new gun dealership business location in North Fair Oaks. And this is going to come before the Board of Supervisors on June 8th, which is the next Board of Supervisors meeting. A very similar ordinance came before the board about a year ago exactly, but the board wanted to make some technical changes to it and keep considering it. And of course now gun control is always an important topic, but especially now it's in the news even more. And so the supervisors have decided to bring it back. Some background about the state law. State law does impose some licensing requirements on firearm dealers. However, these are pretty minimal and they don't necessarily capture all firearm dealers. So this proposed ordinance would be more strict than state law. And state law actually explicitly allows local governments to impose stricter licensing requirements than what is required at the state level. And at least 80 cities and 17 counties in California require a dealer license. And like I said, San Mateo County already has a dealer license requirement. This is an update to that requirement. So if somebody wanted to open up a gun dealership in San Mateo County, they would need a federal license, likely a state license, and then also this local license. So what's in the ordinance? First and foremost, it is about licensing. So any person or entity who is selling, leasing, or transferring a firearm within the unincorporated area must obtain this license issued by the county manager. And the applicants must go through a pretty rigorous background check. This isn't just some credit check. This is a pretty stringent process. It would require the potential licensee to provide a number of or a bunch of information about their employees and making sure that all of them are eligible to own firearms, a lot of information about their own licenses at the federal, state, and other counties and other cities and other states, all of the information about their licenses and any information about whether they've had their licenses revoked or suspended or anything like that. And then the licenses must be renewed annually, and that involves a fee. It involves the county manager's office coming out to check the dealership to make sure that it's meeting all of the stringent security requirements and to check inventory reports and things like that. So not just at the initial stage, but annually under this proposed ordinance, firearm dealers would have to go through quite a bit of process to keep this license. Another big update from the current firearm dealer licensing requirement in San Mateo County are these additional security measures. And these are designed to make sure that the location where the person is selling their firearms is safe. So all the business locations would have to have pretty strong security features like steel bars on the windows and extra locks on the doors and steel bars over things like grates and ventilation systems. So hopefully no one could get in that way. Also secure storage of the firearms and ammunition. So when the store is open, nobody can come in and just pick up the gun. They're going to have to ask the clerk or the store manager for assistance. And when the store is closed, all of those weapons need to be locked away with either like steel cables or a rod or in a fireproof safe. The location must also have alarm systems and video surveillance that meet pretty high standards. For example, the video needs to be capturing 15 frames per second and make sure that it captures the face of anyone who is buying a weapon. And then also the businesses have to have limited business hours. So it's limited to 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. And they must also carry liability insurance that meets some stringent requirements. Finally, the last big piece of this ordinance are the buffer areas. So as I alluded to earlier, this ordinance imposes these sort of buffer areas to prohibit gun stores from being within a certain distance of various sensitive locations, such as homes, schools, churches, mosques, synagogues, and playgrounds, youth centers, and any other existing licensee. And these are the restrictions that the planning department looked at in the context of North Fair Oaks to see if we would have any possible locations there. And under the current zoning regulations, and if this ordinance gets adopted, there just would not be any possible location where somebody could apply and be granted a license to operate a gun dealership. And that's pretty much it. Those are the main pieces of this ordinance. Like I said, it's pretty basic. It's just updating laws that we already have on the books in San Mateo County to make them a little bit stricter. And these is being proposed by Supervisors Pine and Horsley and coming before the board on June 8th. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Are there any questions from council members with regard to the proposed ordinance? I see Councilmember Lopez has her hand up.
Yes, Lauren, this is Linda Lopez. So the last sentence on the where it has under sensitive areas, what is that actually? I mean, I'm reading it. At present, does not create any permissible locations in NFO. Can you please elaborate on that statement?
Absolutely. So if somebody were to apply for a license, they have to provide the location of the business where they would operate. And then the county manager's office would look at the address of that location and see if it's within 200 feet of a school zone, or if it's within 600 feet of a community center. And sorry, I put away the slide, but they would basically look at the address and see if it is within these sensitive areas. And if it is within these sensitive areas, then they wouldn't get the license. So if you look at North Fair Oaks and the current zoning regulations, so where, just under the zoning regulations, a business could operate to sell firearms, there is no current location that is not within one of these sensitive areas, if that makes sense. So the entirety of North Fair Oaks is kind of a sensitive area.
And how many do you know the current number of dealerships that exist right today, as of today?
Actually, is my understanding that in the unincorporated area of San Mateo County, there are no firearm dealerships. So this would further limit the ability to, or limit the locations where you could potentially have a firearm dealership.
Okay, so this would be for new, okay, got it. Thank you very much, Lauren.
You're welcome.
Are there other questions from council members? I see Councilmember Rodriguez. Ever?
Yeah, thank you, Lauren. Will these more stringent requirements apply to current gun dealers as well? Or is it only those who start a new application?
It would apply to current gun dealers in the sense that current gun dealers would need to apply to have this license. So as I just said, there are no dealers in unincorporated San Mateo County right now, but if there were, they would have to apply for this new license and they would have to meet all of these requirements.
Oh, I see. I thought that you were referring to unincorporated areas only, but there are no gun dealers at all in the entire San Mateo?
In the unincorporated areas.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Sorry for any confusion.
Oh, that's all right. And so does these include large department stores like Walmart and, Big Five, Sporting Goods?
Yes, it does. It's any entity that wanted to sell a firearm in unincorporated San Mateo County.
Great. Thank you for the clarification.
Councilmember Whitney. Blair, I see your hand up.
Unmuted. I've noticed the last couple of years the county is leading rather than following on like flavored tobacco bans single-use utensils. There's nothing wrong with that. In fact, I think it's kind of cool to be on the cutting edge of setting standards throughout the community. But then individual cities decide, maybe we'll go along with the county, or maybe we'll do our own thing. It's interesting that county government doesn't have any authority beyond like the health department over city governments. It's like the state government and then the county, but the county only controls directly the unincorporated sections. I was just curious, you know how they have like regional organizations, MTC does like transportation. Is there like a San Mateo County Council of Government that studies and comes up with sort of strategic plans on these are some issues we could tackle this year, so that everyone from like San Carlos to Daly City could maybe be on the same page? Because it's just kind of weird where you drive up and down El Camino or along the coast, and city by city it's just different ordinances. This one I don't really care about either way, because there's absolutely no business that's currently in existence, no applicants in the pipeline, and it's like a null, you know, it's a nice gesture, but it's not going to really impact anything in our community. So anyway, that's all. It's just a comment.
I think Tim or Justin might be more well equipped than me to comment on regional coordination between the cities and the county.
You know, Blair, that's a question that kind of goes to our federal system and the way our local governments are structured. And I appreciate the question and identifying the need. And we try when possible to coordinate those kinds of efforts. And, you know, for different areas, sometimes we try to pass what we call model ordinances and encourage, you know, our cities in our in the county that govern the incorporated areas to adopt similar ordinances. I'm thinking a lot of things along the lines of disposable foodware, plastic bag bans, those sorts of things, where we, and other instances where we try to do a little coordination with possible. If not, then we try to serve as a model. But for something like this, I'm not aware of any kind of like regional entity that would be able to influence it. But one of the things we pride ourselves in San Mateo County on is being able to work with our cities and, you know, the county and the cities really sharing ideas, where possible, sharing enforcement and those types of efforts. But particularly on this kind of gun distributor regulation, I'm not aware of any body that would be able to set like a standard for everyone.
I'll just add that the county passed a little over a year ago, I think, a safe storage of guns ordinance. And to date, 12 cities within the county have adopted an identical ordinance. So on that issue, there is some consistency. So maybe we can expect the cities to look to the county on this dealer's ordinance as well.
Thank you. I see both Councilmember Lopez, Councilmember Whitney have their hands up. Do you still have questions, or there we go. Okay, hands are down. Is there any public comment on the gun licensing ordinance?
If anyone has a public comment, please raise your hand. I don't see any public comments on my side. Victor, are there any comments on your side?
There's none at the moment. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'd like to check this out with Tim and Lauren in terms of its appropriateness, but I'm considering making a motion endorsing the proposed firearm dealer ordinance and recommending approval by the Board of Supervisors. County Council, is that within our purview to do that?
The founding documents for the North Fair Oaks Council provide that you advise the Board of Supervisors as to matters that are significant to the community of North Fair Oaks. So you'd be within your charter to do so. Let me just cross-check. Oop, I've lost the window with the agenda. Hang on a second. Let me see exactly how this was agendized.
It was agendized as an informational presentation, which is the reason for my question.
Right. You know, I think I could recommend that you could by motion and vote rather than you know, formal adoption of let's say a resolution that hasn't been agendized, but you can take action to sort of recommend that the board take this action.
That's where I was going, and thank you very much, Tim. So with that, I'd like to make a motion endorsing the proposed firearm dealer ordinance and recommending its approval by the Board of Supervisors. Do we have a second?
I have a question. Oh,
We have a second. Go ahead, Councilmember Lopez, please.
what's the rush? It's a public comment agenda item. What, I mean, why are we bypassing the regular process?
I am sorry. I thought I had asked for public comment prior to my suggestion of a motion.
Oh,
Um,
I mean, it's not, what I'm saying is, why are we switching from public comment to a action item? We don't, okay. I mean, if we're being told it's fine, it's just, we typically, I mean, we have action items and we don't have action items. So this wasn't listed as an action item. So I'm not really quite sure why we would proceed, but it will be according to the vote. That's fine. Just, it was a question.
No, and I appreciate your question, Linda. My intent was to express our endorsement of the ordinance for the Board of Supervisors consideration, given that it does impact our community. So we have a motion, we have a second. I believe we would need a roll call in this case. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Are there any questions with regard to the motion? Additional questions? Then if we could, let's proceed with the roll call.
Okay, Chair Brooks Esser,
Yes.
Vice Chair Juan Carlos Prado,
Yes.
Councilmember Beatriz Cerrillo,
Yes.
Councilmember Joanny Gillespie,
Yes.
Councilmember Linda Lopez,
Yes.
Councilmember Everardo Rodriguez,
Yes.
Councilmember Jennifer Ruiz,
Yes.
Councilmember, thank you, Councilmember Blair Whitney,
I'll abstain on this one.
thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Next item on the agenda is a recommendation on 807 Marsh Road for a home improvement exception to reduce the right side setback for a rear addition to 3 feet 1 inch, match the existing home where 5 feet is required. And an off-street parking exception is also recommended to permit the addition without an additional covered parking space. Presentation on this is going to be by Kanoa Kelly of Planning and Building.
Good evening, council members. Let me just pull up my presentation for you. Okay. So as you said, this is a recommendation to the Community Development Director for the consideration of a home improvement exception to reduce the right side yard setback to 3 feet or 5 feet is required, and an off-street parking exception to waive the additional parking space required due to the expansion proposed at 807 Marsh Road in North Fair Oaks. So here's the approximate location. 807 Marsh Road between 15th and Fair Oaks Avenue. Here's the surrounding land use. So this is R1 S72, and it's completely surrounded by other residentially zoned properties. And here is a view from the street there, and you can see it's located in a kind of central parcel surrounded by homes on either side. And there's that one-car garage and the driveway space for additional parking. So here are the plans. There is an existing home that you saw on the previous slide. They're going to add 2 additions totaling approximately 669 square feet. There's a rear addition here, and then the northern addition is on the right side, this larger addition where they would place a master bedroom with a master bath and closet. And that is the side that they are requesting the home improvement exception. In order to maximize the space on site, they wanted to kind of line up with the existing 1-car garage on that right side for that addition there. And currently they have proposed a little over 3 feet for that right side setback, which is allowed under our ordinance. And because they're adding that additional bedroom, it triggers the need for an additional covered parking space. The site is kind of tight, so and there's no room to put an additional covered parking space on the site, so they are requesting an off-street parking exception to permit the use of the existing 1-car garage and then the driveway for additional parking. So the project meets all R1 S73 development standards, aside from that right setback, which would be remedied with the home improvement exception, as you can see here. Meets all of the requirements, and the project is categorically exempt under the section 15301 of the CEQA guidelines related to minor expansion of existing facilities. So recommendation is that the North Fair Oaks Community Council provide a recommendation to the Community Development Director on the proposed home improvement exception and the off-street parking exception. And that concludes my presentation. We'll open up to any questions.
Do we have any questions from council members?
I raised my hand. I don't know if you can see it.
There we are. I do see it now, Juan Carlos. Please go ahead.
Yeah, a couple of questions. I know that on Marsh, not all of Marsh allows for street parking. So I'm assuming that this particular address would allow for parking out on the street. Is that correct?
Are you talking about a permit or just street parking for guests?
A street parking for, yes, additional street parking in front of this house.
If there are any open spots that would allow, yeah, for additional parking, but they can fit up to three vehicles on the site there, in their driveway and their garage.
Okay, and then my other question is, although 5 feet is required, I know they're a bit short of that, of those 5 feet required to 3. Is that coming from a safety perspective? The fact that you're asking for 5 feet from the setback, is that from a fire or medical or whatever safety concern? Would that be compromised if an exception would to be made?
No, our ordinance allows up to 3 feet setback from that, from the side yard with a home improvement exception. They would also have to go through the building permit process and obey any building requirements. So no, there's it's already been conditionally approved by the building department and fire. There are no health or safety concerns with that setback.
Okay, thank you. That was all.
Are there any other questions from council members?
I have one.
I'm sorry, I'm not. Great, terrific. Councilmember Gillespie, please go ahead.
Yes, I'd like to ask how it impacts the neighbor on the other side of the fence where their property is. Have they been appraised of this exception?
So yeah, we sent a notification for the off-street parking exception for a notice for the North Fair Oaks Community Council meeting that they were requesting an off-street parking exception and a home improvement exception. So the neighbors would have received a notice.
Do you know if they object or not?
I have not received anything, any comments from the neighborhood.
So that means you don't know, or that they could object and you have no information? What does that mean, they do not object?
No, I said I haven't received any correspondence from any of the neighbors or any correspondence in opposition of the project. It could come up once we issue the approval. There is an appeal period that they could appeal that, but I haven't received anything from the neighborhood.
Okay, because you can see the neighbor on the other side of the fence, they look like they do have a 5-foot setback. And I wonder how that would impact them to have their neighbors have a 3-foot setback.
Right. Yes, they could definitely weigh in if they send me a letter or if they're here at this meeting to comment.
And there's building codes that have extra firewalls and that kind of protection if you have only a 3-foot setback?
Yes, there are additional building codes that they would have to adhere to protect the property on the other side.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions from council members?
Yes, I have my hand up through the chair. So what's your method of communicating to the neighbor? Because I'm looking at the picture and it looks like a possible safety, but you're saying that still needs to be checked out, correct, by the fire department?
No, the fire department has already reviewed the plans, and
okay.
They've conditionally approved the project. They will review it again during the building permit application, but they have reviewed it and signed off on it for the planning permits.
And how did you communicate with that gray house?
So we sent out a notice of the community council hearing, and then we will also send out a notice for once we are about to render a decision for the off-street parking exception and home improvement exception. And if we receive any correspondence from the neighbors, we also send them a copy of the approval letter with instructions on how to appeal the project if they desire.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other, let's see. Any other council member questions?
Through the chair, this is Emma. I'm sorry. There's a message there from Holly Boyd, and I'm hoping Tim Fox, County Council, can read that in the chat box.
I see Holly's message that says she can comment. Okay.
Right. Can you promote Holly to a panelist so that she can comment verbally?
Okay, Holly has been added as a panelist.
Go ahead, Holly, if
Hi,
you're able.
can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
So my name is Holly Boyd. I'm one of the owners at 807 Marsh Road. My husband and I have lived here since 2004. We know our neighbors pretty well. So when we were starting this kind of endeavor of an expansion, we did talk to both of our neighbors. We're very friendly with them. So the neighbor at 811, we talked about how we wanted to move forward with a master bedroom that continued along the line of the existing garage that's already there. And they were supportive. They were encouraging us to move forward. They said it sounded like a really cool project. They do use their backyard a lot. They have a pergola in back. So it's a little odd the way that the properties, I guess, were built in the 40s, that they shifted, the setbacks aren't really even on each side, but we have spoken to both of our neighbors prior to submitting our application to this county.
Okay. Well, thank you, Holly, for that.
Any other questions from council members? Linda, your hand is up.
I'm sorry, I forget to put it back
No
down.
problem. We're all dealing with that. Please don't worry about that.
Okay, it's down.
Is there any public comment?
If anyone has a public comment, please use the raise hand feature. Okay, I don't see any public comments. Victor, do you see any comments on your phone line?
Thanks, Jennifer. There's none at the moment.
Okay.
With
Thank you. Okay, thank you.
with that, I believe we need a roll call for the home improvement exception. Is that correct? Oh, excuse me. I see Blair has his hand up.
Yeah, you need a motion. I'll make a motion to recommend approval of the home improvement exception and the off-street parking exception.
I'll second. And let's have a roll call.
Okay. So Chair Brooks Esser,
Yes.
Vice Chair Juan Carlos Prado,
Yes.
Council Member Beatriz Cerrillo,
Yes.
Council Member Joanny Gillespie,
Yes.
Council Member Linda Lopez,
Yes.
Council Member Everardo Rodriguez,
Yes.
Council Member Jennifer Ruiz,
Yes.
Council Member Blair Whitney,
Yes.
Youth Council Member Gabriela Ake,
Yes.
Youth Council Member Citali Curencita.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Motion carries. Next item on our agenda is consideration on 2700 Blenheim Avenue for an off-street parking exception to allow for 2 tandem uncovered parking spaces plus a third uncovered parking space where 5 independently accessible covered parking spaces are required in conjunction with the addition of 1 bedroom to each of a 3-unit apartment complex. The presentation will be given by Olivia Boo of Planning and Building. Olivia?
Hi, thank you. Let me go ahead and share my screen. Is that visible?
Yes, it is.
Good morning, council members, county council, staff, and members of the public. My name is Olivia Boo, project planner for this proposed off-street parking exception. It's located at 2700 Blenheim Avenue. And it's for, it's an existing triplex that is proposing to, for the request of allowing 2 tandem uncovered parking spaces plus a third uncovered parking space where 5 independently accessible covered parking spaces are required, associated with the addition of 1 bedroom to each unit of the existing triplex. It's an addition of approximately 235 square feet. I'll go over the introduction of the property and then compliance and answer any questions. So this is a view of the property. The subject property is outlined in yellow, and it is a corner lot. This is a street view of the triplex. This is a floor plan of the existing floor plan at the top, and then the bottom is the proposed floor plan. I shaded in yellow the areas that are changing. Oops, I'm sorry, changing. There's a small addition to the front of each unit in the common area, and then the yellow in the rear left corner is the addition of additional bedroom for unit C. And this is showing that there is an existing 2-car garage that will be retained, and then 3 uncovered parking spaces in the existing driveway. This is a rendition of the existing elevation, and then below is the proposed elevation. So the 1 new bedroom is being added to each unit, approximately a total of 235 square feet being added to the entire triplex. They are again retaining 1 2-car garage, and to comply with parking, providing 3 uncovered parking spaces in the existing driveway. All is on site. The property is zoned in the S5 district. They are in compliance in terms of, so the minimum site requirement is 5,000 square feet. The existing is 4,850 square feet. There is no change to the parcel size. For the side setbacks, they're required to be 5 feet for the interior side yard and 10 feet for the street side. The existing side yard is 4 feet for the interior, no change proposed, and then the left side, street side will be in compliance. The front yard is required at 20 feet. The existing is 11 feet with no change proposed. The rear yard is also 20 feet, and they're retaining existing 9.5 feet. The height limit is 36 feet. They are retaining the existing of approximately 14 feet. Lot coverage limit is 50%, and with a small addition, they are in compliance at 47%. And then again, the parking, they're asking for the exception to that. That's the conclusion of my presentation. I can be available for questions.
Councilmember Whitney, your hand is up.
It wasn't supposed to be, but I live a half block away. I rent an apartment at 70 Buckingham, but I have no financial stake in this because I don't own the building I live in or this one, but it's super close to where I live.
Is that a question for county council as to whether or not you have to abstain from the approval of this?
I don't think I have to. I just disclosing that I live super close, but I don't own anything.
Very good. Are there any other questions from council members? Council member Rodriguez.
Yeah, just the regular question about neighbors' feedback, if there was any concerns that were directed against the expansion or the exception.
I did receive some opposition in terms of that there is there is a concern because there's limited parking in the area. I don't know if those folks are available attending. I did also send them a copy of the floor plan, just because I think that it's a great way to know how the proposal is being designed. Also, if they are not at this meeting, they do have the opportunity to, when the decision letter is rendered, to appeal the project.
And was there only one, Olivia, or how many?
Yeah, there was a second one, but it was not so much in concern of parking. Just, I think it was more just well, I guess essentially it was concerned for overall just, development in the area, modification in the area.
Thank you.
Vice Chair Prado, you have a question?
Yeah, just for clarification, it's my understanding that there is enough parking within the property. It's just not covered. Is that correct? Just for clarification.
That is correct. And that is something that I think is a good thing about this project, because I know in some other situations, folks are asked for reduction where they cannot provide parking on site, and this project is doing that.
Thank you for clarifying that.
Any other questions from council members? Do we have any public comment?
If anyone has a public comment, please use the raise hand feature. I don't see any public comments on my side. Victor, do you see any comments on the phone line?
Thank you, Jennifer. I don't see any at the moment.
Okay, thank you. Back to you, Chair.
Very good, thank you. Then I would offer a motion to approve the off-street parking exception, excuse me, for 2700 Blenheim Avenue.
I'll second that.
With that, we'll take a roll call vote.
Okay. Chair Brooks Esser,
Yes.
Vice Chair Juan Carlos Prado,
Yes.
Councilmember Beatriz Cedrillo,
Yes.
Councilmember Joanny Gillespie,
Yes.
Councilmember Linda Lopez,
Yes.
Councilmember Everardo Rodriguez,
Yes.
Councilmember Jennifer Ruiz,
Yes.
Councilmember Blair Whitney,
Yes.
Youth Council Member Gabriela Ake,
Yes.
Youth Council Member Shitlali Corencita,
Oh, could you guys hear me?
Oh.
Yes. I don't know if my internet cut off. Hello?
We called on you, Shitlali, for roll call. We can hear you.
Yes.
Okay, yeah. Yes.
Thank you.
Motion carries. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.
Next presentation is the Fair Oaks Clinic update. I see Vice Chair Prado, your hand is up. Okay, your hand is down. Good. Okay, thank you. I'm going to err on the side of recognizing people if I see their hands up. Next agenda item is presentation from the Fair Oaks Clinic update on the vaccine rollout. It's going to be made by Rocky Singh, the supervising physician, as well as Linda Franco, the clinic manager for the Fair Oaks Health Center.
Through the chair, I just want people to know, so items number 9 and 10 are not for council action. Is that correct? Because what's happened is our agenda is missing council action, and that's what threw me off. We conducted council action on items 6, 7, and 8. But I'm just saying it's missing the language on the agenda. So going to agenda item number 9 and number 10, it's for information only. Is that correct?
You are correct, Councilmember Lopez.
Okay, that's what threw me off, Brooks.
Okay. Apologize for that.
Thank you.
Okay.
Linda, sorry, Chair. Linda, would
I'm
you still
sorry.
like for me to, oh, sorry. Would you still like
Please,
for me
Jennifer,
to
go
share?
ahead.
Hi, Jennifer. Yes, if you can start the PowerPoint, that'd be great.
Oh, Linda. I'm sorry. I'm Linda too. Sorry, Linda.
Sorry.
Okay. Okay. I'll mute myself now.
Hi, so this is our rendering of our building. We're located at 2710 Middlefield Road. We're the Fair Oaks Health Center. Originally, they had considered the South County Health Center when they did this rendition, but we are the Fair Oaks Health Center. Next slide. My name is Linda Franco, and I'm the clinic manager for the Fair Oaks Health Center.
Hi,
And
good evening. I'm Rocky Singh. I'm the supervising physician at the Fair Oaks Health Center. Thanks for having us. Next slide.
next slide. So we're at 2710 Middlefield Road. We opened in December 2013. And if some of you may recall who've lived in the area for quite some time, it was actually a combination of 3 clinics: the Fair Oaks Adult Clinic, the Fair Oaks Pediatric Clinic, which was on the site of Hoover School, and the Willow Clinic, which was on the site of the VA campus over at Menlo Park. The services we provide are adult primary care, pediatric, OBGYN. We have a full dental clinic, optometry, physical therapy, specialty care like cardiologist comes to our clinic, musculoskeletal provider comes to our clinic, podiatrists, dermatologists, and we also have a pharmacy on site that is sponsored by Cardinal Pharmacy, and we have a lab on site. Annually, our visits are 60,000. Next slide.
So, really speaking about the COVID vaccine, given that we're in a pandemic right now, the 3 vaccines are Pfizer, Moderna, and Janssen. And each of the vaccines has been approved by the FDA for different ages. So Pfizer was recently approved for all ages 12 and up. Moderna has been adults, and Pfizer and Moderna are both vaccines that require two doses. The Pfizer is between the first and the second dose 3 weeks apart. The Moderna 28 days apart between 2 doses, and the Janssen is the Johnson & Johnson dose approved for adults, and it's a 1-dose vaccine. And what we're seeing with trends is that all of these companies and vaccines are they're trying to get them approved for younger and younger ages. And so we anticipate that by September, Pfizer will be approved for ages 5 and up. And they may get approved for 6 months, as little as 6 months and up by the end of the year. And Moderna and Janssen are both undergoing clinical trials as well for younger ages. Next slide.
So this is information about San Mateo Medical Center's patients and the vaccine data. So when we look at all of the number of patients, there's 56,590. And we've broken it down by that percentage, which is fully vaccinated, partially vaccinated but overdue, and not vaccinated. So the fully vaccinated are those who have received 2 doses. The partially vaccinated have received 1 dose and are waiting to get their second. And the partially vaccinated but overdue would be those we anticipated would come back for their second vaccine, have not come back yet. And the non-vaccinated and also not vaccinated. On the other side, we have the information for the lowest quartile census tracts. And we see that there is a slight difference between fully vaccinated and that percentage, which is about 35.8 versus 38.8. The other, the partially vaccinated, very similar, 10%. Also the partially vaccinated but overdue, very similar. And the not vaccinated, a little bit more, again, 50.9 than those that are in the all census tracts, which includes these census tracts as well. Next slide. And here we can see our vaccine data by age. And you'll notice that the lowest, of course, is the 12 to 15. We've just started to be able to use vaccine Pfizer for this age group. So that will be lower. We have for 16 to 49, the dark blue, just to say, is 30 is those that are fully vaccinated. The light blue are the partially vaccinated. The red is the partially vaccinated but overdue, and the gray is not vaccinated. So as the different tiers opened up, also you'll see that we were able to capture the younger age ranges over time. And we actually broke out the 65 to 74 and the 75 plus. Just that was like the first group that we were able to open to. And so that is about 57%. That we've been able to vaccinate as San Mateo. Next slide.
So this is the same vaccine data, but looking at it differently by preferred language. And so the legend is the same. So that royal blue color are the patients that are fully vaccinated. At the Fair Oaks Health Center, about 3/4 of our patients prefer Spanish as the primary language to get their healthcare delivered. So you can see about 35% are fully vaccinated, 11% partially, and then you can see about 49% have not been vaccinated. The English speaking is a little bit more, with 41% fully vaccinated, 47% not, and then other languages, Portuguese, Tagalog, everything, it's all broken down by preferred language. Next slide. So just an update with what's going on right now in terms of the vaccines. When we started initially being able to provide vaccines, it was February 11th, I believe was the date. We saw that the demand was quite high. And we had a limited supply. So we followed the tiers as they were rolled out, which was patients over 65 first or with certain conditions. And now we're starting to transition where we're seeing that the supply is there, but the demand is not as high, or the rate of demand isn't as high. In total in the county, San Mateo County, 76% of those who are over 16 have had at least one dose, where 91% of those over 65 have at least one dose. We are really working, there are work groups where they're trying to provide mass vaccines. So there's some clinics that they're called mass vaccination clinics. There's some community efforts at schools, churches, local community centers. And we are really trying to work with groups to provide vaccines to patients that are homebound. So trying to get the vaccines to the most vulnerable where they are. Next slide. So more specific to Fair Oaks Health Center, we started vaccinating patients February 11th. And our efforts included having a vaccine clinic every day for about 3 hours, Monday through Friday. We also have Saturday clinic vaccines where the clinic is open all day on Saturday, and some Sundays as well. our efforts are shifting to also providing vaccinations for patients who come to the clinic for any reason. So patients who come for their routine checkup or for any, for a lab draw. We're really trying to vaccinate folks as they come into the clinic as well and keep the vaccine clinics going. We are using the Moderna vaccine primarily in the clinic, but now that Pfizer has been approved for younger ages, we'll be transitioning to the Pfizer vaccine so that our younger tween patients and teen patients can get vaccinated as well. Next slide.
So we are also leveraging other providers of service within the county to be able to vaccinate our patients. So San Mateo County, it's staffed in collaboration with Dignity Health, is hosting vaccine clinics at the Fair Oaks Health Center. This is every Sunday through June. It begins at 11 a.m. We also have a partnership with an organization called HR Support, and they also provide staffing of a vaccine clinic. They hold these weekly clinics on Wednesdays at Fair Oaks Health Center. What they do is a basic drive through our parking lot and behind our building and able to vaccinate our patients and others in the community. There are also school-based clinics that are occurring in local schools to be able to outreach to more individuals in North Fair Oaks. Next slide.
So we're trying to do two types of efforts at Fair Oaks, outreach and inreach. And we define outreach as when we as a system are really trying to call out to the community and pull patients in. And inreach is when the patient's already inside the clinic for a service, trying to provide them with vaccinations. So some of our efforts include, patients that are overdue for the second dose. That was that red on the legend, which had the syringes of folks who was the percentages of people who were vaccinated or not. It was red on those graphs. So we're trying to call patients who are overdue by phone and send them text messages to try to welcome them back into the clinic for their second dose. We also, when patients come in for their healthcare needs, for routine healthcare in the mornings, the healthcare team huddles together, which is a nurse, an admin person, and the provider. We try to go through all the needs, each patient who's coming in, and see what their needs are. And we're identifying folks that haven't had the vaccine, the COVID vaccine. And if they're not vaccinated, we're offering them the vaccine. We're also answering patient questions and concerns. I mean, the COVID vaccine is relatively new. We know a lot of people are uncomfortable, they are scared, they've heard rumors, and they're really worried. Is the vaccine safe? Is it okay for them to take it? They've often, they have specific questions. So we're trying to make sure we answer all of their questions and concerns and leave the door open that should other questions arise, that they can contact us. And lastly, we're trying to make sure that patients have access to all the vaccine community resource information so that they know where they can get the vaccine. It's outside in the community. Next slide.
So this is information on the vaccine status of the Fair Oaks patients. This is a number. So we can see how many, again, the orange is a not vaccinated, the green is a partially vaccinated, and the blue is fully vaccinated. So this is distinguished from all San Mateo Medical Center patients to those at Fair Oaks that we've been working on and with. So we again see a very small number in the 12 to 15-year-olds, as we've just been able to open that particular vaccine to that population. We have approximately 28 fully vaccinated in the 16 to 49, and we have about a little over 1,500 in the 50 to 64 and about 774 in the 65 plus. Next slide. And so this is a nice way to see where the percentages are. And in our percentages, clearly we've been able to reach out to the 50 to 64 year olds and also the 65 plus year olds, as these are the populations that we first began to work with about since February 11th. Next, Rocky, can you take over the next slide? Because
Sure,
I just.
yeah. Next slide. So, what are our next steps on this journey? Our goal would be to make sure that everyone who wants the vaccine gets the vaccine, and that we give all the information that we have to all of our patients. So we're really trying to begin to incorporate vaccines as part of all clinic in-person visits, to collaborate more and more with community partners, to encourage our patients to receive the vaccine and really to understand what the barriers are to receiving them. And our goal is really to promote open conversation, understanding, and two-way, that the conversation be two-way, and a lot of education about the not just the vaccine, but also the disease of COVID. Next slide. Any questions?
Right, so that's the rest of our presentation. If there's any questions that people may have, we'll try to also respond.
Are there any questions from council members on the presentation? Councilmember Lopez, I see your hand up.
The HR support staffed clinic, did I hear you say that was drive-through, or what? I thought I heard something like that. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. We have a tent in the back of our building, and we have a drive-through system where they enter our parking lot and are able then to drive alongside the building to the back of the building to receive the vaccine.
And then but what about the waiting period? So people just sit in their car and wait?
Yes, so they have staff there who monitor the patients that are sitting in the cars, and they have a system in place with a group called Corinthian that does all the traffic control. Okay.
And also, I'm curious, in your in-reach efforts, how do you handle flu vaccines? When you say that that vaccines are part of healthcare team huddle, are you talking about just COVID or in general, like flu vaccines and virus?
So yeah, you're correct. Vaccinations are definitely part of that regular day-to-day healthcare delivery. So we really look to see when we'll go through a patient's chart early and we say, oh, this person is due for the shingles vaccine or flu vaccine. Depending on the season and depending on what they're due for, we try to, we will offer them the vaccine when they're on site. So the COVID vaccine is relatively new, but it's also part of what we're trying to do and trying to deliver in the clinic.
Okay, and I just want one comment. I always like to, since I'm a lot older than everybody here, I think, I like to always give a historical perspective. The Fair Oaks Clinic has actually been in North Fair Oaks since the 70s. So this combination of clinics just was more recent, but the clinic has always been in North Fair Oaks. So anyway, I thank you very much for all of the work that you're doing. It's here and we want to keep it here. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
I see Vice Chair Prado. Juan Carlos, you have your hand up.
Yes, thank you. Just to piggyback a little bit on what Linda was saying, as a child growing up in North Fair Oaks, I got all my kindergarten, preschool, all vaccines in the clinic as growing up in the early 70s. So thank you for continuing on your service to the newer generations. My question was, besides the vaccines, are you also doing the testing just to people to know if they have it or not? Can you elaborate a little bit on the testing itself? Not the vaccine, just the testing.
So yes, we are doing testing. So, we have testing available daily in the morning, and it depends on who needs it, but we have testing available early in the morning where we're swabbing, we're taking swabs and sending those samples to the lab. And the turnaround time is pretty quick. Within 6 hours, we'll have the results. And we're also able to do it in the clinic if someone is in for a visit and we note that they have symptoms and we want to test them, we're able to test. So both by phone, we can bring them in, or if they happen to be in the clinic, we can test there as well.
And are you allowing or accepting walk-ins for testing purposes only or not?
So if a person has symptoms, then we're going to test them. We would try to triage them first by phone, but we would test everyone who needed it.
Okay, but if someone wants to get tested and is not manifesting any kind of symptom, would you take them or not?
We would offer them one of our community local partners to test.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Councilmember Rodriguez, do you have a question?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Linda and Raki, for your presentation. As a regional health center, do you get local data for your surroundings? And in this specific case, the number of deaths that may have occurred for North Fair Oaks specifically?
So do we get, actually, I do not have data specific to North Fair Oaks. So I don't have that data. That doesn't mean it's not there, but I actually don't have that and I don't have it to share. Right. I can try we can definitely find out and get back to you.
Yeah, that would be great. That's something that is not part of the data dashboard. And as you know, oftentimes the numbers from North Fair Oaks get clumped together with those from Redwood City, and it's hard to tell, the real numbers for COVID infection, specifically in North Fair Oaks. Another question, and this comes out of the vaccine communications and equity meeting that took place earlier this morning. As part of a conversation went on about homebound patients. Do any of the San Mateo County Health centers have visiting nurses, or how is it dealt with those homebound patients?
So there are so with or without COVID, just in general, we do have there are some teams that have homebound services. They're often targeted towards our elderly population, our senior care clinics. But now we're able to, and I'm not sure who the actual specific nurses are, but we have the ability to use our county health system to identify folks that are homebound and route and make sure that they are able to get vaccines. So yes, there are homebound services. We primarily had them for the elderly and those that were that had significant challenges in the past, but now we're trying to get the vaccines to them. And it's leveraging resources within our larger health system.
Through the chair, I can provide a little bit more information to Ever's question. Justin Mates, Deputy County Manager, I'm helping out on the vaccine rollout as well. So there's a few different pathways. I think what's been discussed tonight is the pathway for medical center patients specifically who may be homebound. We also have some additional resources in the county for folks who sign up on My Turn and identify that they would have trouble getting to a clinic site or otherwise homebound. That list ultimately flows to county health, and we have a vendor. It's actually also HR support, as well as where appropriate in the South County, actually the Menlo Fire Protection District has also been trying to assist with the homebound. The biggest challenge we're seeing in the homebound, interestingly, is not early on in the pandemic, we didn't have the resources to be able to vaccinate at home. We do now. But one of the biggest challenges is setting up an appointment with somebody who's homebound. We have a list that is for my turn, but sometimes it takes 5, 6, 7 calls in order to be able to set up an appointment. We're still learning more about those challenges, but we've tried multiple avenues, vendors making calls, paramedics making calls, community center folks making calls. And that seems to be one of the biggest challenges. It's just actually connecting with the homebound patient. But there is a fairly robust system in place. And if anyone, if you know anybody who's homebound and hasn't been vaccinated, or their caregivers haven't been vaccinated, we really encourage folks to sign up on My Turn and just indicate that you would have difficulty traveling to a clinic site, and you'll get on the homebound list.
Thank you, boss.
Councilmember Cerrillo. Beatrice?
Yes. The statistic of not vaccinated patients, is that because the time is lapsed and they're just no-shows, or are there some in there that have just received their first one and are waiting to get their second one? I'm concerned about the statistics of the ones who have received the first one and not the follow-up. And what outreach is there in place to kind of, hopefully convince them, or, that they to take that second one.
To take the second one. So I can share. So in the graphs that we showed, that was reflected by this red bar, and it's not a large percentage, but it is there. I think in our 75 plus, it was about 9%. And in our 16 to 49, it's about 3%. So when we vaccinate folks, when they come for their first vaccine, they leave with their second appointment. And so the date and the time is set. So in the benefit of that is we know who didn't come the second time. And so as soon as they don't show for that appointment, our outreach efforts start. So we try to call, we try to text, and typically we try at least 3 times and sometimes send a letter. Whenever we're trying to contact a patient and we can't reach them, the ultimate attempt will be a letter, something in writing. And we have that list, and we're going to keep trying. We do note that sometimes patients will get their second vaccine, but they may not come to the clinic to get it. There are also sometimes they'll opt to get their second vaccine somewhere else. So we do check. There's something called CARE, which is a statewide registry. And we are seeing that some folks are getting their second vaccine, and we may not know about it. And then we correct our chart to reflect that.
Okay.
But the efforts are ongoing.
Right.
Phone and text are some of the major ways.
Okay. Thank you.
Other questions from council members? I had one, and I'm not sure if it's a question for Rocky or Linda. The number in the presentation that concerned me most was of the Fair Oaks Clinic clients who are 65 and over. We still have 30% who aren't vaccinated at all. And I was wondering if you could tell me something about the outreach efforts that are being done to make sure that we get to those folks.
Sure. So we've sent messages, texts and phone messages to our patients to outreach. As Dr. Singh mentioned in the morning, when we are looking at clinical huddles, that's something that is being recognized by the team in terms of any individuals that may need a first or second vaccine that may have been missed through this process.
And I'll add that, there are folks that some people are scared.
I understand.
They're frankly scared to get the vaccine, and we understand that. And so our job is to promote the discussion and to listen, better understand what the barriers might be. we try to do these mass outreach efforts where we can send a lot of text messages. That sometimes works. Sometimes our elderly patients, they don't respond very quickly to those. And sometimes we're trying to invite the whole family. So if we have a family of patients, for example, now we've opened up to pediatric patients, and we're noting that some of the families are really avid. They're like, okay, I want to get my 15-year-old vaccinated. And then the pediatricians and the adult docs were trying to work together to say, hey, bring your whole family in, bring your grandmother in, bring your mom in. So we're really trying different ways to get everyone in. And some of it is for us to listen and understand what the barriers are so that we can try to break them down. So it's a work in progress.
Appreciate that. Thank you very much. Councilmember Lopez, you have your hand up.
Doesn't the clinic still have a promotores program where you can go to the homes, or you do not have that anymore?
No, we don't have that particular
model
program any longer. I think that was through an organization, and I can't recall.
El Concilio.
Concilio.
Yeah, but that was for the diabetes.
No, they're no longer there at the clinic.
But that was for the diabetes clinic.
Correct.
But it was a model where would take care of exactly what needs to, it would fill the gap in conducting the outreach. So I was just curious that, and it can be used for COVID, could be used for diabetes, it could be used for weatherization, it could be used for anything pretty much, but it's basically doing that outreach directly. And some people just aren't into text and emails and all of that, but I was just curious if the clinic still has that program. So you're saying you do not?
No, that was a partnership with Il Concilio that was not continued, I think, due to some funding from Il Concilio.
All right, thank you.
Any further questions from council members? Do we have any public comment on this?
Any public comments? Use the raise hand feature. Okay, I don't see any public comments on my side. Victor, are there any comments on the phone line?
Thanks, Jennifer. There's none at the moment.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Rocky and Linda, for your presentation. We'll move on to the last agenda item of the night, the Middlefield Road Smart Street Project presentation. That's going to be done by Ulysses Vinson and Michael Wentworth of the Information Services Department. The floor is yours, Mike, Ulysses.
Thank you, Councilman Esser. Good evening, council members, county staff, members of the public. My name is Mike Wentworth, and I'm the interim director at San Mateo County Information Services Department. As you may know, the county is constructing a road improvement project on Middlefield Road, which includes a smart street project or sub-project. And Ulysses Vinson is with us tonight to, well, let me introduce Ulysses. He is the director of our innovation group called SMC Labs, and he's also the project manager for this smart street project. And he'll be presenting the elements of the project that's under consideration tonight. Ulysses?
Hi, everybody. Ulysses Vinson here. I bring greetings from Long Island, New York.
Oh, wow.
I'm here visiting my parents. This is where I'm from. And it's almost midnight for me. And I spent the day trying to explain the big differences between, this is real technology questions, between Alexa and Siri. And I think we got it nailed down that these are completely different operating systems. And so please don't call for Alexa when it's actually an Apple device. So that's what I do. I'm there to, SMC Labs was started about 3-4 years ago now, and we're the technology arm of the enterprise department of ISD. And we've been asked to come up with an innovation layer that would kind of go, that would complement all of the hard work that DPW has done with building out this new gorgeous streetscape. So with that said, I'll share, I know I only have about 6 minutes, so I'll run through at least the beginning part of it for you. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes, we can.
All right. Let me just get out of this. There we go. So yeah, I'll just quickly explain the vision and then I'll go through the experience. And then if you want, I know we don't have a lot of time to go through maybe all of the solutions in detail, but you know, I'm always available after this call, or if you want me to come back to kind of do a kind of a breakout of all of the different things that were coming up that we've came up with over the last couple of months. So as you know, Middlefield Road is a very lively corridor where there's a lot of small businesses. There's a lot of small restaurants and shops and things of that nature. And we really think that technology would add to that sense of community that's already in place there in North Fair Oaks. So we kind of broke the experience down on top of what has already been done with DPW. So one of the focuses we wanted to look at is how can we use technology for the purposes of economic development. Specifically, Supervisor Slocum's office is very concerned about, getting back to normal and how do we support our local businesses along this corridor. So those are kind of things that we're asking ourselves. And these quotes here are not actual quotes yet, but these are things that we were saying, these are the kind of things that we can ask ourselves about how we can make, not just a regular street, but an actual experience. So Arrival is another one. Obviously there's going to be a lot of nice greenscapes and plants and things like that, but we want to see how can we actually get people there safely? How can we make that experience of arriving on that corridor, whether you're driving and looking for a parking space, or you're biking because there will now be a new parking lane, or just walking. And, we're looking to see how we can advance maybe some of the cool features that we're now seeing in that innovation space and in the smart city space, and seeing what we can do there. Connecting Engage is another one we want to really do. We want to make sure that everyone that's on that corridor is connected. Their devices are connected. We want to have things where that can be a focal point of the community where we can engage more, like a kiosk that you see in that picture. Health and safety is another big one. Whether it's monitoring air quality along that corridor, or just talking about the hazard mitigation that Councilmember Rodriguez was talking about earlier with, being able to detect any, wildfires, for an example. And lastly, one of the things that, we think is one of the most important pieces or attributes to being, to provide smart solutions and smart services is data. So one of the things we're trying to do is all these data things that we're going to be collecting here, whether it's air quality data, we want to have it in one centralized location. And we want it, it'll be transparent. It'll be something that the public can see. And it'll be kind of like a one-stop shop of everything you would need to know. We're talking about data just for that clinic, for an example, having that one place that you can go to figure out some of the data that's associated with some of the challenges and pain points that you guys have in that community. So specifically, we have identified this. This list it's definitely not a static list. It's very dynamic. And some of the things that we came out with, again, smart parking. And this is an actual picture of the rendering of what the north side of the street will look like. So as you can see, DPW did a great job with just how with the bike lanes, more greenery, the sidewalks are widened. And one of the things we wanted to do is how do we create a kind of an easier way to get people to find parking spaces. Public Wi-Fi, of course, this is something we've been working on since the pandemic, because so many of our constituents had issues with connectivity, particularly with students trying to connect to do their schoolwork remotely from home. So we're trying to find ways that, connectivity, where we can provide more connectivity and make it a community type connectivity where everyone can be connected, and we won't necessarily have to rely on, say, your traditional Comcast of the world. Smart trash bins, again, that's something that, again, it's a solar powered thing where, that's completely enclosed, it's touchless, and it's solar powered where it can compact, and it makes trash disposal a lot more efficient for those who are, who live in the area, as well as those who are responsible for picking it up. Digital bus stop, where we're looking to put at the stops where Samtrans would come down this corridor. We were looking at doing digital signage, so you know exactly when that bus comes based on GPS coordinates. So we would be working on Samtrans for that. The other thing is pedestrian analytics, and this ties to many things. It ties to Vision Zero policies. It ties to movement, how many people are moving down certain certain, pathways of the street, and knowing what times of the day people are coming, where they're originating from. How can we get more people, to the north side versus the south side? Again, this is something that we would work with the community with, particularly small businesses, to have an understanding of where people are spending time, how long they're staying. And this is a way that you can create all kinds of promotions for small businesses that way. The community fiber network. So when they start digging up that street, we want to go in there just like the Comcast of the world and AT&Ts, and we want to put in a county-owned asset in there where we would be able to provide the foundation for any future applications that this community would ever need, including free public Wi-Fi. Included in this is smart streetlights to the top right there. Right now, we're looking to not change anything. We're looking to keep the same design, but we're actually going to put a smart component on there that actually connects the lights, so we'll know when the lights are open, or if a light goes out, we'll know they'll all be connected, and it'll be a dashboard to let DPW, whoever's responsible for repairing those lights or any outages, they can respond accordingly. Air quality monitoring. Prior to 3 years ago, when we started the lab, there was only one air quality monitor for the entire county of San Mateo. So now we have 13 that are up and running. This goes to the point of regional cooperation, because we look at what we do in the lab as a smart region initiative, not necessarily a smart city initiative, because we know air quality and environmental issues are regional in nature. So the same issues that Daly City would be concerned about when it comes to environmental issues, so would North Fair Oaks. So we've worked very closely with Redwood City and many other cities. So we would be adding that same network here to this corridor, and all that data would be made available for everyone to look at, and actually take raw data. And for those who are really inclined, not really me, but those who really know what the data means, they can really start analyzing it and really using that to come up with really good public policy. Traffic monitoring, again, that's something very similar, where we're looking at vision zero. We want to know how many cars are going up and down, how fast they may be going. This is not necessarily we're not using traffic cameras, if you will, but you can use new technologies where it's radar-based, it's LiDAR-based, that can be able to determine, a bicycle from a pedestrian, a bus from a small vehicle. So we're looking at that as a dynamic way to get data, and because, San Mateo County, as well as many of the cities surrounding us, have all adopted the aspiration of really getting to that vision zero, where we have 0 deaths and 0 serious injuries on our roads as we travel. Another one is Smart Bench, and that is just a bench. We're going to try to keep the same design, but if you sit down, you can just plug it and maybe charge your phone. And finally, Smart Kiosks, digital signage. That's something, again, that we would really look for the community as far as content. Like when we were talking about the vaccinations, we can definitely use the real estate of the signage of a kiosk on the street to let people know when and where they can get a vaccine, or when there is a performance in the neighborhood, whatever the community would want to see as part of that real content that they feel would be necessary, and it would be multilingual. It can be whatever, we're just the technology people. We'd work with you on what that content would be. And I know I'm over time. So with that said, this is just a breakdown of where each of those smart solutions fit in the scheme of things on the experience. And then again, I can always come back and I can drill down on each individual ones, or I can take a few questions now if you like.
That is really terrific, Ulysses. We have a question from Councilmember Cerrillo.
Okay.
Go ahead, Beatrice.
As with all great new technology, what's the backup systems when it starts to fail?
So, well, right here is a slide that actually this kind of creates the backbone. So as you can see, as they dig up that street, we would be installing a new fiber network that would be maintained and owned by the county. So we would maintain that as far as the connectivity and infrastructure piece. As it relates to each smart solution, we will work with we would work at the very beginning. We would work with them to do the installation, and we would work on whatever types of MOUs or whatever type of customer service things we need to do to make sure that it keeps the uptime at 100%. And as you know, a lot of this is new stuff, so we will be monitoring it very, very vigilantly. And, you know, because we're looking at this is the first time this has ever been done. And so if this works here in this part of the county, maybe we can replicate it elsewhere as well.
If I might, through the chair, Councilwoman Cerrillo, there's also a portion of this project that includes dashboards and monitoring systems that will allow us to maintain real-time monitoring of each one of these solutions to ensure that we can tell when it's starting to fail or when it needs our immediate support. And it's this here and the next one after, I think.
Yeah, so we're all about, you know, just putting up the data. So if you look at this, is just kind of analytics on just foot traffic, people walking. But I think here is where we can create that dashboard that will include, you know, air quality monitoring. It will include Wi-Fi performance. It will include how many people have been connected to the Wi-Fi if you need that device, you know, those numbers. So we can customize what you guys would actually want to see from a live feed as far as, you know, whether it's, you know, environmentally related or, you know, even parking. We can be able to check how long cars are just parked on the street if you like to get that data. So I think this is all part of just having data and, you know, having this to, you can draw on this to, you know, make policy that will improve that corridor.
Is there other cities that have incorporated much of this new technology there?
So I would say that there's been a few cities, much larger cities that have done kind of, and we're still haven't stopped here. We're looking at more technologies, but some cities have done pieces of this. I don't think I've found a city where it's done. It's been like this cohesive kind of, let's look at these verticals of services and experiences and, you know, and where people really live, because obviously we can't compare ourselves to Vegas, right? No one lives on the strip for real, right? But they have a lot of, some of this going on in pieces. But we're looking at it where this would be a community driven,
right,
you know, and an asset to the county that would provide, that has, you know, this is, again, once we have that infrastructure under the ground, then, you know, we can build on top of it. So we're really future-proofing whatever you would like to see as a community later down the road.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Rodriguez, you have a question ever?
Yes, thank you for your presentation. A couple of questions and one suggestion. So next to the bus stops or the benches, because I didn't see anything in regards to security. And so I was thinking that maybe, you know, next to the bus stops or the benches where people congregate, adding one of those emergency towers where people can use it to call 911 immediately in case they're having an emergency or there's, you know, vandalism, violence, whatever. I think it might be great as well to add that component. Sure. And at the same time that I appreciate all the technology, I would also emphasize comfort to go along with the high tech, specifically regarding the, you know, the benches, the bus stops, and places where people will congregate. It's something that it hasn't existed, you know, bus stops. Currently, there aren't any benches or any shading for people to wait there. So that'll be awesome to have. And finally, if there are any options between one technology or another, or one design or the other, I guess I could speak for the community when I say that we would appreciate, you know, if they're asking the community's feedback, if there's, you know, any alternative that might be better over the other one.
Yeah, so the only ones, the ones that have been more decorative, particularly the benches, all of those will stay the same. The only ones that we were looking at were the just kind of just your basic bench that just had a little bar in the middle that was kind of, you know, just kind of just a regular bench. But the ones that have kind of the mosaic and that with specially designs, we're leaving all of those alone. Any aspect of it where that's already been approved, we're not bothering that. So a lot of the stuff that you're seeing here is going to happen in the background. So a lot of it is going to be even the equipment that'll be on the pole. You won't be able to see it because it's right on top. It's just a little thing you screw on just to connect them, as well as, just the Wi-Fi things that'll be set up. And a lot of the stuff we're putting underground too. That's why it's important that we're digging once. So we're not going back and having to dig up the street again, because we're doing that all on the front end. So yes, we will definitely take in consideration all the community concerns about design or whatever you will have. We will definitely, we'll come back, particularly with the bench, because we want to make sure it looks like the ones that you guys already approved.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. And a question from Councilmember Whitney. Go ahead, Blair.
There, I'm unmuted. I'm excited. This is like really, really cool stuff. I like the investment in the future. I don't think it's an unreasonable goal to extend a fiber optic network or like high speed to all of North Fair Oaks eventually. I mean, there's no reason that the Comcast and the AT&Ts of the world have to own the marketplace. It's a public amenity like the roads and the sewers. And if we connect some main corridors, we could branch off to initially the below market rate housing complexes, Mercy Housing, get over to the one on El Camino, the senior housing, the stuff by the St. Francis Center. But, just because people aren't in a high income bracket doesn't mean they don't deserve access to the technology. And so this is great. One amenity that I would suggest is public charging stations. I've seen in disasters and emergencies where people run power cords out from their house to the street for people that are stranded to charge their cell phones so they could get in touch with loved ones. And I'm very much aware that we have people in a variety of economic circumstances, including unhoused people. If we had like a solar powered charging station where people could plug in their phones, that would be a nice amenity that would help people that are maybe waiting for a day labor job or whatever else is going on in their lives. That's it. I totally support this. And in fact, I would like to see us challenge Atherton, Menlo Park, and everyone in South County to join the initiative and to extend it right up to the county line.
Councilmember Lopez. Linda?
Yes. Thank you, Ulysses, for the presentation. Very progressive work you're doing. On one hand, I support and look forward to new technology, but on the other hand, I'm always looking at what the possible health effects are from overexposure. We are just bombarded with man-made electromagnetic fields, and it's just something, to think about. The World Health Organization is right now conducting research and assessments on what the exposure is, what is the impact, just to get a better hold on that. But so it's the price we pay for new technology, but how do we manage it? And in some situations, do we put your health before it, or do you put it behind? So it's something to think about. Just wanted to throw that out. But thank you again for the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Vice Chair Prado has a question. Juan Carlos?
Thank you. And thank you again, Ulysses, for that information. One of the concerns from the community that have reached out to us in the North Fair Oaks Community Council has been the safety. And I know you brought this up, the safety, because of just the sheer volume of people walking, children. So I know this has been addressed, but I just want to emphasize it again. if we can apply the best technology we have for safety measures, and specifically when it comes to the crosswalks. And I know there's so many different gadgets and technology out there. I see it in so many different cities. But just, I want to emphasize that just the safety on it now, because what we have now, obviously, I know it's a temporary fix, but a lot of people have expressed concerns of the lack of safety, what we currently have now. And I know what is being proposed is nothing what we have now. I understand that, but I just want to emphasize on the safety. All the other things, they might be perceived as a bit, luxurious, or, the technology is nice, but I don't want to forget about the basics and the concerns of the community, which we represent here on this council. And I just wanted to emphasize the crosswalks. If you could speak to that, please.
Yeah, so I could take both of those too. I know that, why we do get those questions even throughout the county. I mean, pretty much everywhere there are people still concerned about public Wi-Fi. We have been following, the FCC. We have been looking at the studies, but the FCC has put out, their studies on the impacts of, say, public Wi-Fi. We do watch very carefully, particularly in, as the proliferation of Wi-Fi is, it's around us. It's everywhere. We don't generally see it, but we do watch it. As it relates to Vision Zero and anything that's related to pedestrian and traffic, when I first saw the work that's already been done on the corridor, I was quite pleased with the actual physical infrastructure that DPW has put in place. So you will have, the necessary bulb outs at the corner where you don't have people kind of hidden away from cars. They're going to be more visible in the street. The new lighting, of course, not just street lights, but there's also pedestrian lighting that will help light the way, particularly, in the evening, at night, and in the morning time when people are going to work. So I think from an infrastructure or public works perspective, I think they have done a great job. Like I've seen the work, and it's really pretty much at every intersection. I think what we're doing now, but we don't have is data. And I'm now working with a company, just so you know, that actually has historical data on that corridor that we started collecting a couple of months ago as well. And they use kind of just the pinging of cell phones that come into the neighborhood. It just kind of shows you, this phone has kind of gone through here, or this person was walking, and it doesn't identify you at all. It just knows when it's trying to connect to a Wi-Fi signal. So we actually started collecting data on that corridor, where how many pedestrians are kind of walking, what's the most busiest street, like what's the busiest intersection. And so, we're looking at that as like just your, kind of benchmarking, and see before the actual improvements are put in place, because we want to be able to look at it prior to groundbreaking, and then after everything is finished, and then actually starting to collect the data to see how well these things that DPW has put in place has worked. So I think for us, we're technologists. We're not really roads and streets people. We're not construction people, but we're driven by the data, and we think that data can be used by the county manager's office, obviously, and the board of supervisors, to, even if we have to go back and say, you know what, maybe we need to do something different there will be data there that will support it. So that's a big, that's kind of, for us, that's kind of like the big driver here to make sure the streets are safer. And you don't really see it. It's not something you'll see. A lot of that will be happening in the background. I hope that answered your question.
Yes, it did. Thank you so much.
Okay. All right.
Are there any other questions for Ulysses? Okay, with that, thank you very much, Ulysses, for calling in from Friday and being with us tonight. Really appreciate you taking the time to do this.
My pleasure.
With that, we had a very full agenda tonight. I'd like to thank all the speakers who participated in our meeting. We did get through it in almost the requisite amount of time. Again, a welcome to Gabriella and Zalali. Looking forward to your participation in these sessions. Thank you to Jennifer Mora for keeping us honest, keeping us on schedule, and helping to run the logistics tonight, as well as the other county staff, Tim, Maggie, Emma, and Justin. A reminder that our next meeting is going to be June 24th, 2021 from 7 to 9 o'clock. Council members, please put that on your schedule. With that, I will make a motion to adjourn. Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you very much, everyone. Good night.
All right. Good night.
Bye-bye.